Hello, my name is Anthony Martin. I'm recording this for my favorite personality thing for my personality psychology course. The theory I'm going to cover is Sigmund Freud's psychoanalytic theory. To go a little bit more in depth on the theory, Freud's theory of personality argues that the human behavior is the result of interactions among three component parts of the mind: the ID, the ego, and the superego. Now, these three different structures I'm going to go into. I'll start with the ID structure. It's more impulsive. Basically, people act without thinking, and long term or short term in general. It is focused on concerns that would occupy more primitive minds, and so those concerns are more of survival, reproduction, food, water, those kinds of things. That's what this theory kind of hinders on. Basically, hey, I need to survive, I need to get food, I'm going to get food. Examples of these concerns would be instant gratification or physical needs or urges, just like I said before, more of the physical end. It operates outside of conscious thought. So basically, as I mentioned before, with the more impulsive actions, people aren't necessarily thinking through these things. An example I give for this one is if you're walking down the street and you saw someone had a pizza that they just purchased, the structure would imply that you're just going to take the pizza without any regards to that it belonged to somebody, or that it may not be socially acceptable or nice to take somebody else's pizza. Only thing that your structure, the ID structure, would care about is that you were hungry, you wanted the pizza, so you took the pizza. The next structure that I'm going to go into is the superego. So the superego is more concerned with the social norms and rules. It's better understood as an individual's conscience or moral direction. So when somebody says, hey, that really, nobody really says it, but in the event that it affects your conscience, like if you said something crude next to somebody that may have taken offense to it, your conscience or your superego might be telling you like, hey, that wasn't wise. That person might have taken offense to that. This superego actually develops as a child learns what's right and wrong from society, kind of what the parents push upon them and saying, hey, this is okay. This is what we want you to kind of differentiate. And it can be a little cloudy if that model or that child's not being shown what's right and wrong. It's not strong enough to overpower the ID structure, as I mentioned previously. So that more primitive one, where you're walking down the street and you're see somebody with a pizza, the superego is not gonna overpower that and say, hey, that's not acceptable. The example I actually give for this one is envisioning yourself as a child being at a crossroad taking somebody else's candy, because you're still developing what's right and wrong. The ID structure would dictate what happens. However, you would feel remorse and guilt after taking the candy. So, long story short, you're going to take that candy, but you might feel bad about it afterwards. The final structure is the ego. It's considered partially conscious and partially unconscious, so you can put thought into it, but also you can act kind of impulsively and not put any thought into it. Its responsibility is to balance the demands of the ID and the superego while also remaining practical. The ego acts as a sort of mediator between the ID and superego. So both of these structures are normal. The kind of the way I look at it, at least, the ID structure is more of kind of that fight or flight. Like I need to impulsive actions. I need to make this happen. But the ego's there to also kind of say, hey, is this considered normal or socially acceptable in this kind of situation? Some aspects it may be yes, and some aspects it may be no. The example I give here is if you were walking down the street and you saw someone had a pizza that they had just purchased, just like in the ID structure, the ID structure would demand that you retrieve the pizza despite social consequences, and the superego would insist that it's wrong to take someone else's belongings. However, the ego makes a sacrifice for waiting to purchase the pizza in return, for not feeling that shame or social remorse. This can be as a sort of compromise. So, the compromise basically being that to the ID structure, hey, I'm going to get this pizza. The compromise to the superego being, there's not going to be a remorse or bad feeling after getting the pizza. So I have Fraud's belief covered in here a little bit. And I basically put down that he believed that the ID, ego, and superego are all consistent conflict. These internal struggles are rooted throughout the childhood and reflect on the adult's personality or behavior. Freud believed that a person who had a strong ego would have a healthy personality. The other imbalances in the system can lead to anxiety, depression, and unhealthy behaviors, which I agree with. I find it interesting that a child's can development can be so affected and have such an impact on their future, but it's also not hard to believe. And the reason that I found this interesting, and the reason I put this down as my favorite personality thing, is because I'm currently studying criminal justice, and I'm curious on what makes somebody tick and do the things they do that might be outside of the social norms. So, looking into this theory, I want to trace back into some individuals' minds and their raising up process, and see if that was an actual influence in the actions that put them in the places and the positions that they are in now. But that's why I wanted to make this my favorite personality thing. Thank you.